Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you and the members of the committee. My name is Ben Shaiken. I'm a manager of advocacy and public policy at the Connecticut Community Nonprofit Alliance. The Alliance is the statewide organization representing the nonprofit sector. As you know, on this committee, community nonprofits provide essential services to over 500,000 people and families in Connecticut every year, and they employ about 14% of Connecticut's workforce, improving the quality of life for communities across the state. I'm here today to testify in support of Senate Bill 340, an act concerning funding for housing services. As this committee is keenly aware from your budget hearing several weeks ago, the Alliance has come to the legislature to request an increase or restoration in funding for community nonprofits by $461 million over the next 5 years. That number represents how much community nonprofits have lost to inflation since 2007, the last time there was a rate increase in the state directly before the Great Recession. The state funding for nonprofit services across the board does not adequately cover increased costs or increased demand for services over the last 13 years. This bill addresses specifically nonprofit providers of housing and homeless services, and they and the people who work for them play a critical role in protecting and assisting Connecticut's most vulnerable people. During the pandemic emergency, homeless services have been an important part of the state's critical infrastructure and emergency response system. And regardless of their essential role, however, homeless service organizations and all nonprofits, frankly, continue to be funded by the state at levels far below the actual cost of delivering homeless and housing assistance services. Nonprofit homelessness services organizations play a critical role in protecting and assisting Connecticut's most vulnerable populations, as I said. Rates of housing instability, of course, have increased during the pandemic, and homeless service organizations have prevented thousands of people from losing their homes. And so, like community providers across the entire human services system, homeless providers continue to be funded far below the actual cost of delivering their services. This includes shelter operations, case management, homeless outreach, shelter diversion, housing problem solving, rapid rehousing case management, housing navigation, etc. For many years, the state has asked these organizations and many others to do more with less to maintain the same high quality of services without additional funding. And in many years, especially during the height of the Great Recession, sustaining really significant budget cuts that have not been restored as the state's budget picture has improved over the last several fiscal years. All the while, costs of operation have increased, and we estimate that cost increase is 28% over the last 14 years. This is not a sustainable model and requires the legislature to act now to increase funding. This bill in front of you today would require sort of reworking the way that the state contracts with these providers in a way that would more adequately compensate them for the services that they provide, more accurately compensate them. And so we support this effort, not just to increase funding, but also to improve the way the state does business with the nonprofit sector in this particular area. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you, Madam Chair.